the mail. Just Resin is one of them. I ordered it from Artist Till Death. They're out of Dallas, and so I'm going to experiment with that. And then I'm also going to experiment with the Stone Coat copper base tint. I also have some Stone Coat Southwest Desert Mica Flakes. And then I hope I don't make a big mess with this one, the Tropical Turquoise Metallic that you can use in resin also. So these are going to be resin pieces, no acrylic paints at all. It's just going to be all epoxy. And I am really excited about it. So I am now live on YouTube as well. And so if you have not gone over to my YouTube page, please do so. I'm a brand new YouTuber. It's really awkward getting used to it. But I thought that it would be something new that I tried this year in my acrylic journey. So if you haven't gone over there yet, you'll want to go over there. It's the YouTube channel is called Southern Makes, all one word, all things crafty. And when you find me, you can hit the subscribe button, and you can also click on the little bell, and the little bell will send you notifications when I'm going to be live. I know a lot of people say, oh, I wish you would tell me you were going to be live. Well, that's one way of me telling y'all is through the YouTube channel. I'll send you a notification, I believe, to your email. So anyways, okay, I'm going to go ahead and get started. If you make comments on either one, please let me know. Well, don't let me know, but if you make comments on either one, I'm going to try to keep up with all of the comments on both channels. I get little bubbles that tell me when we are live. So right now I'm just refreshing Facebook on my computer, and then I'm going to show you what my grandson did this weekend. He did a really good job pouring. I think this was his second, maybe even his third time pouring, but we had a really, really good time. All right, I'm just waiting for my computer to finish downloading. So, okay, the first piece that he did, he used black, gray, a little bit of white, and some metallic gold. Those are the colors that he picked out all by himself. And I love the colors. They turned out really good. We added some silicone oil into each color. I wouldn't normally put it in white, but I totally forgot and I added it in white. I'm not sure if it made a difference. If it did, I don't recognize it. But this is the silicone oil that I use. It's a 3-in-1. You can get it in the man section at Walmart. And that's it right there. 3-in-1 silicone. And you only need a couple of drops in each paint color. So when he did that, this is what came out. Isn't that pretty? It celled up, and that's what I was kind of hoping for. I was hoping that he would get some cells because I wanted him to see how everything reacts. And so that's what we came up with. Now, if you look at it up close, it doesn't look like it has oil residue on it. But it does. You can't see it to the eye, but if I were to go ahead and put epoxy on this right now, I would get divots. And the divots are right here where these circles are. That's a divot. That's a divot. Down here is a divot. But that's where it doesn't want to, it wants to separate. The oil is causing separation. And so what I'll do, the next thing that I will do, not today, later this week, I'm going to wipe this with a wipey, and then I'm going to spread some baking soda on it and just kind of really rub it in to absorb the oil. And then I'm going to wipe it off. And then I'll wipe it again with a wipey, and then it will be ready for epoxy. But it turned out really good. I'm very happy with it. He did a really great job. I was very nervous while we were doing it for a couple of reasons. We were in a hurry because we were going to go out to eat, and it was getting late. And that's really one of the main reasons why I was nervous. It was just because I felt hurried, and I don't like to be hurried when I'm arting. So anyways, it turned out really good. All right, so these are the crosses that we got out of it for the YouTube view. That's the close-up. And then for Facebook view, turned out really pretty. And then with the leftover paint, I was able to get one in for myself. So let me see how it's looking on YouTube. Yeah, there you go. Turned out really pretty. So I was happy with it. And then I'm trying to remember what the experiment was I was doing. Oh, okay, this one, you really can't tell this is what I did by the design on the tile. But what I did is I poured a puddle pour, and then I took the tube and I poured the dirty cup in through the tube, and then I lifted it, and it created this design. I gave it a little help with a toothpick, but I used some metallic colors, and I think I even used, I'm really falling in love with this. It's Anita's metallic white. You can mix it in any color, and it just really gives an awesome look. So this was the tile that I got from the leftover paint. I can't wait to epoxy all of this because I know that it's all going to look amazing. I mean, it looks amazing now just in the matte look, but it's really going to look good after I epoxy everything. All right, I'm going to set that down there for right now. Okay, so for today, let me bring my YouTube down a little bit so you can see. All right, so for the first experiment, this table is not very level just because I have carpet in here. So it kind of, it's a little bit unlevel. You should always make sure your surface is level. I am just used to working with the carpet underneath this table. If I notice that paint is traveling in one direction, I'll kind of give it a little lift with a popsicle stick. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and get started. My name is Patty, for those of you that don't know me on YouTube, and I've been acrylic pouring just a little bit over a year. I consider myself still a beginner. I'm still learning. And so if that's where you're at in your pouring experience, then by all means, please follow me. We can learn together. You can learn from my mistakes. I make a lot of them. I learn a lot, though, from them. So that's what this process is for. I am not an expert. I've learned from very many different artists online. And so I'm a mod podge of a bunch of artist techniques. So along the way, though, I've come up with my own techniques, which is kind of cool. You kind of advance that way. But if you'd like to follow me, I'd love to have you and just kind of watch how my pouring journey is going. And hopefully you'll learn something from it and you'll get encouraged by it. And if you're not pouring yet and you're just watching, I'm hoping that I'll encourage you to get out and get some supplies and start pouring yourself. It's very relaxing. It's very rewarding. I do sell my pieces that I make, and I'm loving what I'm doing. So I don't only do acrylic pouring, though. I also make jewelry, and I also am dabbling in glitter tumblers and heat press, making t-shirts with a heat press. So if you follow me on my YouTube channel or on Facebook, I have a Facebook group, Southern Makes VIP group, and that's where I post all of these videos, and you'll learn along with me all the other handcrafted things that I do as well. So I try to take 1 week at a time and dedicate to a separate handcrafted item. This week is going to be glitter tumblers. However, I do have to keep up my acrylic pouring because that's what I do the most of, and that's what I sell the most of. So I need to wipe my lens really quick. Okay, I think that's better. It was a little bit foggy. All right, so we're going to go ahead and get started. For this small piece, you don't really need a lot of epoxy. I'm just kind of experimenting with all of them. I've got 4 different products that I'm experimenting with, but I do have to make a separate cup of epoxy to put down as a clear coat. I think I'm going to paint this one with this color flat paint just to be a little different. No special reason, but I'm trying to get this in both views so y'all can see me on both views. Okay, there. I think you can see right there. All right, so this is Bear paint, and it is a matte finish. You can use matte or flat paint, regular old house paint. And so I'm going to put a coat of that on my board before I even get started. You can tell this is old. Yuck. What a mess. I would not want to be a garbage can because a lot of nasty things go in there. All right. Good to have a hand towel close by. And if you spray it with either rubbing alcohol, or you can use white distilled vinegar, just kind of saturate the towel, and you can use it to wipe your hands so that way you're not having to change gloves all the time. Okay, so that's a really pretty color. I like that color. It's one of my favorite colors. There it is right there for YouTube. And so all I'm going to do is I've already sanded my board. This is wood. I've already sanded it so it's nice and smooth. And now I'm just going to coat the top of the board. And if you're watching, if you want to comment below and tell me where you're watching from or who you are, I'm hoping that the comments are going to work. They don't always, and sometimes they're delayed, so I won't always see them in real time. And it's just nice to know to keep track of, you know, who's watching. This is my favorite color. I have a lot of things in this color. If you can hear any music in the background, I do not have any rights to any of that music. And then I'm going to take the heat gun to this really quick just to kind of dry it. Okay, that's all I need. So let me get some wax paper, or actually some freezer paper. I like the freezer paper because I use the drippings to make jewelry. So before I even start, let me go ahead and get that down. I want it to drip on this paper so that way I can use whatever drips, I can use that to make some jewelry. And if you follow me on my Facebook channel, Southern Makes VIP group, you can go back to some of my earlier videos and see how I make the jewelry from my skins. It makes beautiful jewelry. I can get necklaces. That's my favorite thing to make with the skins. You can even do earrings and bracelets, but my favorite is to do the pendants. So I'm just using painter's tape right now to tape down my freezer paper so it doesn't flip backwards on me while I'm doing my pour. Okay, so let me get my heat gun to it really quick. Just finished drying it. It dries pretty fast with the heat gun. All right, so now I'm going to mix up my epoxy, and I'm using the Stone Coat Art Coat Part A and B from Stone Coat Countertops. It's my favorite when I'm doing this kind of artwork. It's my favorite to use. So I've got my cups here that I got paint on. We don't want to get that paint in the epoxy, especially if we're using a different color. So I've got to wipe it out. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and mix epoxy for, and I'm just trying to think of how much I want to use. I'm really bad about eyeballing it, y'all. So for exact measurements, I couldn't tell you. I think I'm going to do half and half. All right. You can use measuring cups. They sell them. They have them at Walmart, the Anchor brand. And it has the measurements on there, so you can pour 1 ounce of part A and then fill the rest of the cup with until you get up to 2 ounces. So that way you know you have equal parts. But the only bad thing about that is then there's the cleanup. And it's not very easy to clean epoxy from glass. All right, I'm going to need a bigger cup, so let me grab that really quick. See my sloth in the background? He was at Walmart needing a new home, and I rescued him from Walmart. So anyways, all right, I'm just going to pour a little bit more. I think I've got enough now. I don't screw the caps on all the way, just enough to where it's going to stay closed and not pop off with air. Because if you don't screw it on and you just cap it on there, the pressure will pop it off. I found that out the other day. So you just want to make sure you screw it on just enough so that you can unscrew it, because the stuff will get really super sticky on its own. And the tighter you turn the cap, you might not be able to get it off. So, all right, I'm about half full. So again, I'm eyeballing this. I'm not measuring, but it does take equal parts of A and B. So however much you pour in one, that's exactly how much you got to pour into the other ingredient. Part A is thicker. And so right before I get to where I think I'm supposed to be, I stop the flow because it takes time for it to settle. Oh, I need a little bit more. This is so bad that I'm not measuring. I'm so sorry that I'm not using measuring cups today to show you. But if you do get your measuring cups to get started on your own, you just have to make sure you have equal parts. Read the directions on whatever resin you're using. I prefer to use art resin because I can pick it up quick at Hobby Lobby or Michael's or even an art supply store here locally. Okay, that looks right. Those are my two favorites to use. I don't really use any other brands. I only use art resin or Stone Coat countertop epoxy. All right, so now what we're going to do is we have to pour this into a cup. And I'm going to pour the more fluid one in first. It's just easier to pour the thicker one into the more fluid ingredient. Make sure you scrape your cup really good. Get every little bit because it does have to be equal parts as close as you can get it, if not perfect. And then I'm going to pour in my thicker one, which I think is the part A. Yeah, part A is the thicker one. But see how thick that is? It's like a really thick honey. And again, you want to scrape the bottom. This is where a cute little spatula would come in handy because you could just really scrape out every little ounce. There's always some at the bottom, so you have to just push it all down so then you can scoop it up. Okay, so I'm done with that cup. And now I'm going to pour for, or excuse me, I'm going to stir for 3 minutes. And what used to be clear has now become really milky. All right, so as you stir it, it's going to become one, and it'll turn clear again. The slower you stir it, the less bubbles you're going to have. I popped the bubbles with my heat gun, so it's not really a concern. It's just more annoying than anything. It won't mess up my piece or anything if there's a billion air bubbles because I can always Tabitha, I just invited you. You want to go live with me? I just sent you an invite. I don't know if it's going to let you. Oh, you decline. That's okay. You're probably at work or something. I'm sorry. It automatically popped up on my screen. That's why I did it. It says to send you an invite. So I wasn't sure if you were initiating it or what. So anyways, I'm experimenting with product today, Tabitha. I'm experimenting with Stone Coat Base Coat, Just Resin, Pigment Paste, some Gold Flakes by Stone Coat, and also some Tropical Turquoise Metallic by Stone Coat. So 3 of the products are from Stone Coat and 1 is from Just Resin. So 3 minutes. So I've got about 2 more minutes left. And it's starting to get a little bit more clearer. It is still milky, but there's also a clearness to it. I think it looks milky just because of all the bubbles, but it's mixing really well. I did not get to hug your neck yesterday, Tabitha, at church. I saw you, but you were walking away and I was in the opposite direction. And I had 3 kids that I was picking up. So 1 more minute. And then I'm going to divvy it out in some other containers and start adding the product to it and see what we get. I've already prepped my board. I painted it with this green color that you see on the board right now. And if you're watching on Facebook, I'm also live on YouTube. So, and if you're watching on YouTube, I'm also live on Facebook. Southern Makes. It's all one word. All right, so I'm almost done stirring. It looks really good. And I've got 4 different products that I'm testing. So I'm going to need 4 different cups with epoxy in it. And then I'm also going to need enough to put a base coat down. I've never used these products over here other than the Stone Coat base tint. And that was a flop because I was using it in Floetrol, not realizing that that was not a good idea. It's not made for that. It's made for epoxy. And so it does not work in Floetrol if you're wanting to use it that way. It turned out really nasty. I'm almost done stirring. Okay, I just hit 27, so I'm done. All right, now I'm going to divvy it out 1 cup at a time. And hopefully I'll have some even amounts. And I'm really just wetting the bottom of the cup. I'm not putting a lot in here at all. And you'll see why. I'm not going to use these to cover the entire board. I'm just streaking it across the board. Keeping in mind that my work time is about 1.5 hours, which I still have plenty of time. If I have leftover, then I'm probably going to do some coasters. Okay, I'm going to set that aside. I'm going to take my heat gun to it just to warm it up a little bit, pop some bubbles. You don't want to leave it too long, especially if you're mixing in these plastic cups. Even though these plastic cups were made for restaurants to hold like sauces, salsas, and that sort of thing in, heated ingredients, I still don't like to. I need a wipey. I don't like to heat it that long when it's in plastic. I don't want to melt the plastic and compromise the epoxy, so I try to be careful with that. That is my hubs calling. He probably forgot that I was going to be live at 3 o'clock. Okay. So now this is the fun part. This is when we add our tints. And I learned this the hard way. If you're going to buy any of the Stone Coat base tints, there's a couple things to keep in mind. Number 1, don't shake the bottle, because what happens is it gets all up in the lid, which this one it doesn't. It didn't, because I didn't shake it. Or actually I did, but then I transferred it to another container. What will happen is it'll get up all in that lid, and the air will cause it to dry up and just become a really nasty mess. So what I did is I transferred it to a different container, and I will never shake this bottle again. So what I will do is I will stir it. Oh, it's gorgeous. I'll stir it just like any other ingredient to try to get a good mix. But I will not shake it because I don't want to get that dried up, gooey, nasty mess. And then it was hard for me to get the lid on and off again. So I learned through experience, any of the Stone Coat countertop base tints, I will not shake the bottle anymore. I will just stir it to mix it up. And it looks gorgeous. All right, so I'm going to put some in here. It doesn't need a lot because, again, I don't have a lot of epoxy in here. So I'm going to stir it up. Get it off the sides. And I'm going to add heat to these again, too. After I get them all stirred and I'm ready to use it, I'm going to add heat to them. So there's not a lot in here. I might even add some more epoxy in there. Because I really like that color. So, okay, I think I have what I need from this one. Again, I'm not going to shake it. I'm going to treat it like a little baby. And I'm going to even put it out of the way because I'm done with that. All right, I need to wipe my hands in between just because these little bags, I'm probably going to end up pouring this powder into some containers. It'll be easier to get in and out of when I need it. All right, the next one I want to try is this just resin. And the same thing. I'm never going to shake these. Just stir them. It's thick, so you got to take some heat to it. The temperature makes it thicken a little. This is called a pigment paste. And you definitely have to add a little bit of heat if it looks really thick and gummy. Just to get it fluid. All right, so then I'm just going to scoop up just a little bit. It doesn't take a lot at all. Just enough to wet the tip of my popsicle stick. Oh, that is so gorgeous. Look at that. Pretty, pretty. And I'm going to add some more resin to it. I want a little bit more in this mixture too. And just make sure you get off the edge the pigment paste that you put in there so it's kind of mixed equally. It's a gorgeous color. This is by Just Resin, and I ordered it from Artist Till Death. All right, so that one is ready. Again, I'm not going to shake it ever. Put the cap on and set it out of the way. All right, next are these little, this is Southwest Desert Mica Flakes by Stone Coat Countertops. And I'm not really concerned about this blowing up in my face, but the other one I kind of am. I'm just going to put some flakes in here. I don't know how this is going to, how it's going to do, but it's going to be pretty. And I'll probably transfer this into a container versus leaving it in the bag. All right, so let me stir this one up. And I'm going to add a little bit more resin to this one. All right, that one's done. All right, the next one is this powder over here. I believe it's a mica powder. Tropical Turquoise Metallic by Stone Coat. And this is one that I will definitely put in a container because I can see a disaster happening. You don't want it to waft up in your face, that's for sure. It's mica powder, and it looks like crushed eyeshadow. And I only need a tiny bit. Very little. Oh, look at that color. That is so pretty. And I'm going to add a little bit of more clear. It's like a deep sage green. It's gorgeous. And you only need just a little bit of the flakes, the powder. Okay, y'all. So let me take some heat to all of this. It just looks like finely crushed eyeshadow powder. I'm going to take heat to all of them. You can see the bubbles popping. All right, and I'm going to pour this on my board. This is the leftover. And I'm getting ready to smooth this all around. Trying to get every little bit. All right, I'm going to smooth this around on my board with my gloved hand. And this just makes everything else more fluid. So before I had flat or matte paint on the board, and so those colors on the epoxy are not going to want to flow up against a rough matte surface. All right, so I've got that covered in clear epoxy. I'm going to wipe my hands just so it just makes it so much easier if you don't have sticky epoxy on your gloves when you're picking up your cups. And I'm going to heat it really quick. Pop the air bubbles. And now I'm going to start adding color. This is the part where I get quiet. There's no right or wrong way to do this, y'all. Now these flakes, I'm not sure that I should have mixed it in epoxy because they're wanting to settle. because they're heavy in the epoxy. So maybe just adding flakes on top next time. I'm not really sure. All right, let me give this some heat, move it around. Okay, I'm gonna play around with some more. And again, these gold flakes, I'm not really sure about them. Maybe you don't mix them in epoxy and maybe you just kind of drop them on the epoxy, but they're heavy, so they're wanting to settle. So I'm just going to pour them on here and see what happens. They're cool looking, that's for sure. So cool. I'm going to mix up the gold flakes again and just kind of drizzle them on there. They do look really cool. They're settling on the bottom, so it's kind of like giving it a 3D look, which is really cool. And I kind of wished I mixed more. All right. I'm liking the way it turned out. I do like the gold flakes. They are falling to the bottom, which is cool. So I guess mixing it in the epoxy is actually a good thing versus just dropping it in there. I mean, I guess if I just dropped it, it would probably fall to the bottom too, but it's giving it a 3D effect. The gold flakes are just kind of sinking It's a fat one. It was standing up. It's really pretty though. I'm liking it. So did you see how the heat kind of moves the epoxy around too? Looks really pretty. Okay, for my YouTube people, there, I moved it in focus a little bit more, or in, what do you call it? Camera view. The colors are a little bit distorted on video. They're a little bit more vibrant in person. So, okay, I'm going to do a tile. So let me grab a tile really quick. Give me just a second. I just have to step like 3 feet away. And I do not have any clear epoxy. So this will be interesting to see what it will do. What it will do, because I don't have any clear epoxy to put down. So I'm not really sure. But we're going to use the leftover. Y'all can't see it, can you? Okay, there. I think both camera views can see it. This is a good experiment to find out what happens when there's no clear epoxy for it to move on. It just might not, it might not do anything. Or it's going to dry. I'm thinking it's going to dry raised. Yeah. All right. Let me see what happens when I take heat to it. Does it move or does it not move? Yeah. See how it doesn't want to move? Whoops, I just dropped some in the other piece. I just want to see what happens if you don't have a base coat of epoxy on here. We'll see what happens. I'm going to take some heat to it. and move it around and just see what happens. I'm thinking it's not going to want to stick. But tomorrow after it dries, I'll do a test on it and see what happens. Is it going to stick to that naked tile or not? All right, let's heat it up, see what happens. It doesn't want to move over the dry spots, that's for sure. I'm going to help it. Just tapping those dry spots and taking some heat to it again. The true test will be tomorrow after it's dry and see if it's going to peel up or not. All right, I'm going to take some heat to it, and then that piece will be done. Trying to push some over on the edges. All right. See if I can get these little flakes out. I might be able to put a little bit of flakes. Okay, y'all. The only thing that I need to do is there's one piece of gold flake that's really sticking up, and I'm going to try to get that out. It's right here. That was a big, huge piece. All right, so this one turned out really good. I am really happy with all of the ingredients. The Just Resin. I like that the background, that I left the background painted this color. It looks really cool. I think if I would have used a different color, of course, it's going to have a different look. And this, excuse me, is total experiment, because this tile right here, I want to see if the epoxy is still going to stick to the tile, even though I didn't have a base coat of clear epoxy on it. I didn't paint it, nothing. It was a naked tile. So that'll be interesting to see how it dries tomorrow. But other than that, I'm really happy with the products. I love the Just Resin. You only need a little bit. That little jar is small, but this is going to last me a long, long time. It's only 50 milliliters. Not very big at all. I mean, look, it fits in the palm of my hand. It's small, but it's going to last a long time. So I'm excited about that. But anyways, that's it. I'm going to go ahead and end my videos. Let me see if I can get my camera there. I'm going to go ahead and end my live stream. If you're joining me on YouTube, thank you so very much for watching. Please make sure you hit the subscribe button and ring the little bell so that you'll get notifications the next time I'm going to go live and you won't miss out on anything. And if you are watching on Facebook, thank you, Tabitha. Thank you for hanging out with me and watching. I can't wait for you to see this in person. And I've got your beach scene that I need to bring to church the next time that I see you at church, Tabitha, because the paint is all dry. It's just ready for you to epoxy. I would have epoxied it for you, but I don't know how to do it with all of that raised glass on there. So I didn't want to ruin it. So I'm just going to bring it back to you. But I've gotten a lot of compliments on it from people that have come over and poured with me live. They see it. I show it to them, and they absolutely love it. So anyways, all right, y'all. Have a wonderful afternoon. Thank you for joining me. If you're watching it on the playback, you can still comment. It just won't be live, of course, but I'll be looking to answer any questions that you might have. But this was a lot of fun. I think I'm hooked now on the epoxy and the pigment paste and all the other little things that you can put into the epoxy to add color. The cool thing about doing it this way is that I don't have to have a second step of adding epoxy over it. It already has epoxy. I started out with epoxy, so it's going to dry clear. There's not a second step. When I use acrylic paints and Floetrol, there's a two-step. You have to, of course, pour and then wait for it to dry. And then you have to epoxy over it if you want that clear glass finish. But working with just starting out with epoxy, you don't have to do that. It takes a step out, which is so, so cool. So anyways, if you're watching on YouTube, thanks for watching. And I will see you next time on Southern Mix Live. Bye.